is by putting out the idea that ideas are more important than the individual. And the most extreme expression of this mindset is that it is justified to kill other human beings because of an idea. In other words, an idea can justify the killing of other human beings. We have talked about it before. I have talked about it in the book on war. But it is one of the primary shifts that needs to happen before the golden age can be manifest, is that people begin to recognize that this is a lie, this is a manipulation, and it is simply out of touch with the higher reality of the spiritual realm. Because there is no idea. An idea exists only in the mind. There is no idea in the mind that can justify killing the physical body that a spiritual being is using as its expression on earth. Physical life on earth is precious because life on earth is an opportunity for growth. The people who embody on earth, being in physical embodiment, is their highest opportunity for growth. So when you take away the physical body, you take away that opportunity for the soul's growth. And it is therefore the greatest violation of the free will of that being. This is why, when you look at the Old Testament and the command, thou shalt not kill, there are no conditions defined under which circumstances it becomes acceptable to kill. But of course, from the very beginning, the priesthood of the Jews defined that there were indeed such conditions. And that is why you see in the Old Testament that the Jews could supposedly believe in the Ten Commandments and think they honored the Ten Commandments while they massacred men, women, and children of the tribes who inhabited what the Jews believed was their holy land. And so you see that this is the fallen beings manipulating the reality of God, that physical life is precious, into creating conditions where it becomes not only justifiable, but even desirable that people kill others. And this was done, my beloved, all for the sake of an idea. Now you may say, but didn't the Jews just simply want the land that these people lived on? No, because the Jews were motivated by an entire set of ideas that they were God's chosen people, that there was a holy land defined for them, and that therefore it was justified that they went in and took it by force. These were ideas, my beloved, that justified this killing. And if you will look at world history, even the recent world wars, you will see that in all wars, ideas played a role. It has always been that way. Because, as I say in my book on war, you have an instinctive drive not to kill your fellow human beings. You cannot kill another human being without knowing within yourself that this was not right according to some higher standard. You can kill so many people that you have covered over this instinctive knowing, and so you don't notice it anymore, but you still have it, my beloved. So in order to get people to kill each other, the fallen beings have to do one of two things primarily. They either have to set people in conflicts with each other, where two individuals or two groups of people feel that if I don't kill them, they will kill me. And this then is a lower way of getting people to kill each other. And it can work sometimes without there being that much of an idea involved, but in most cases there is an aggressor that somehow feels justified in attacking the other group of people. And sometimes the other group of people who are being attacked may also have an idea of why the others are wrong and why it is justified that they defend themselves. So you can still have ideas. But the other way, the primary way that the fallen beings get people to kill each other is to define some system of ideas that justifies the killing of particular human beings. And in many cases, it is exactly the pattern that you have seen so many times, and you saw in the process that led to the Second World War, where a group of people somehow feel superior, and they define a scapegoat that is inferior, perhaps even subhuman, and suddenly, for the betterment of some greater good, it is not only justified, but necessary and desirable to kill the scapegoat. And so, my beloved, how does this tie in with the first part of my dictation where I talked about genuine communication from the heart? Well, my beloved, what is it that blocks genuine communication? It is that people are trapped in a matrix of ideas, a set of ideas and beliefs, where you are not expressing yourself freely because you have certain ideas in your mind, where you think you have to adapt your expression to these ideas. You cannot just be yourself. You have to fulfill some kind of role, and therefore you have to evaluate everything that's being said through you with the outer mind. And when your higher being senses that you are evaluating everything that's being said with the outer mind, it naturally steps back and respects your free will, which you have now centered in the outer mind. You are letting the outer mind run your free will instead of making truly conscious choices. And so there will be no free flow. You also many times have a set of ideas that says that other people or society expects you to live up to certain criteria. And again, this causes you to evaluate everything you do or say. Is it correct according to the standard? And then you have no free flow of communication, my beloved. And so how does this tie in with bringing the golden age? How does it tie in with the situation here in Europe? Well, as I said, how can there be a golden age unless people from different nations, from different groups, different races, different ethnic groups, even the two sexes, men and women, unless people can communicate at the level of the heart, how can there be a golden age? Because what is the golden age based on? The golden age is based on an inner sense of oneness that transcends all the outer divisions that people have in their outer minds, where they identify with their nationality, for example, or their race, or their ethnic group, or their sex, or whatever. But let us look at Europe right now, where when people come to identify themselves with their nationality and define their nationality being distinctly different from other nationalities and often in opposition to them or in competition with them, well, then their interaction, their communication will be at that level of the outer mind. And then, how can they come to the point where they have a heart-to-heart talk? What does it mean to have a heart-to-heart talk? It means that you connect to a higher part of your being, and you sense that the other person is also connected to the higher part of its being. And then you sense that it's the same reality you are both connected to. And when you know that you are both connected to a higher reality, how can you be fully identified with the outer mind? My beloved, what caused Brexit? Well, very simply, that the British people did not have a heart-to-heart communication with the other nations in Europe. Is that the fault of the British people? Certainly not exclusively. What caused the situation in France, where a candidate arose that wanted to take France out of the European community and wanted to go back to a nationalistic state? What has caused the situation in America, where you see this nationalism of putting America first? Is it not because people do not have communication at the heart level? Because if certain leaders were able to sit down and have a talk where suddenly you're not president this or chancellor that, you are one human being talking to another human being, and you suddenly connect and realize you are both human beings, and that your peoples are both human groups of human beings. All of a sudden, the dynamic shifts completely. And then you are able to have this genuine communication. Now, my beloved, why have you seen this wave of what people call populism, where the people are dissatisfied with the political establishment and with politics as usual? What are people tired of? What are they dissatisfied with? Precisely that politics is one big game where everybody has an idea of how things should be, or how they should behave, or how they should talk, and how the other people should talk. And they are all just playing this game at the surface level, never connecting at a deeper level. And more people among the population, as I said, are longing for something genuine. They don't see anything genuine in the arena of politics. So, if a candidate arises that isn't the typical politician, that speaks with a certain conviction, now it may be that what he is convinced of is not realistic, but he is convinced and he has conviction, and he is talking about it in a genuine way, and then people think, maybe this is what we are looking for. It may not be what they are truly longing for, but it shows you that what people are ready for is a more genuine level of political interaction between nations. Now, my beloved, which part of the world, when you look at the entire planet, is most likely to be able to become the forerunner for this more sincere communication? Well, it is the European continent. I said continent. It is precisely the European nations who have now for decades attempted to create a greater union in Europe. But what you need to recognize, my beloved, is that this union must be based on this sense of oneness that only comes when you connect at the heart level. So far, what have the European nations attempted to do with the EU? They have attempted to create a set of ideas saying, look at how many wars we have had on the European continent over the centuries. Look how we have fought 2 world wars. Look how we had the extreme outcome of the Holocaust on our soil. We can never allow this to happen again, and therefore we must find a way to cooperate, and therefore we must create a set of ideas that forces us to cooperate. But my beloved, what created the division on the European continent? It was ideas. There was war between the Catholics and the Protestants. There was war between East and West. There was war between Nazism and those who were not Nazism. You have seen so many times that ideas, sets of ideas that were elevated to the status of being more important than the individual human being. You have seen how these ideas have created division, war, conflict. Why does it make sense? How does it make sense that creating another set of ideas will resolve the conflict? It makes no sense, my beloved. And this is the very idea that I ask you to have in the back of your minds for the rest of this conference. I ask you to make the calls for this, to make the calls that there will be a more genuine communication, and that there will be an awakening and a stepping forward of the many people who are ready for this level of communication. For I tell you that in every country there is a growing number of the population who are ready and longing for this genuine connection with other people. They may not know this consciously, but by a relatively simple and realistic shift in the collective consciousness, many of them will wake up, and there will be a new openness and a new willingness to say to your own politicians, listen, find a way to talk to other nations or get out of the way. For there are others who are willing to talk at the heart level, to have a genuine conversation where you are not seeking to dominate the others, you are seeking to reach some understanding that you have not reached before. This would be a tremendous progress, and this could open the way for so many things where the European nations could get out of this impasse that they are in right now, where they all fear for the future. They all fear that suddenly the EU that they have built so carefully over so many decades is starting to fracture and come apart from within. Well, it is coming apart from within because they have approached it from the same mindset that created the division, and the second law of thermodynamics is doing its work and showing them that it is time to step up to a higher level. But those, of course, who have been trapped in the bureaucratic mindset, in a political mindset for decades, they are not the ones who can step up, but the people can. And the people can elect new representatives, and there can be a new kind of people that come to the forefront in the media who will start talking and communicating in a different way, where they simply refuse to play all of the silly games that have so far created nothing but division and misunderstanding. My beloved, no conflict has ever truly been resolved through the kind of negotiations you have seen so far. It has always been caused by somebody realizing that by continuing the conflict, the consequences would be so severe that they do not want this, so they choose the lesser of two evils. In order to avoid a greater evil, they agree to something. But this is not unity. This is not true union. And so there have, of course, been cases where there has been a great understanding among people, and genuine progress has been made. But in too many cases, it has been this superficial level of communication, and it has been this mindset that in order to avoid the greater calamity of war and conflict, we have to force ourselves into this outer political forced union. But I tell you, my beloved, that when you have communication at the heart level, you do not need to force yourself or each other into a political or economic union. You will willingly go into it because you experience that this greater union is not a loss, but it is a gain. Not politically, economically, or militarily. It is a gain in how you feel about yourself. And truly, what is the most precious human commodity? Is it gold? Is it diamonds? It is, my beloved, how you feel about yourself. Nothing is more precious than that. And therefore, as Jesus said, when you know the pearl of great price, you willingly sell everything else in order to have it, which means that you willingly give up all aspects of the ego, the outer personality, the wounded personality, in order to come into union with your higher self, come into union with other people, so that you will feel better about who you are. And you will dare to acknowledge who you are, a spiritual being who has nothing to be ashamed of, nothing to feel embarrassed about, nothing to be afraid of, nothing to hide. You have no reason whatsoever to hide who you really are, my beloved. And so, when you recognize that, you can be free to share, then you feel the flow from your higher being through your mind, and then you feel good about yourself. Truly, I hold the mother flame for each one of you. What higher desire could I have than to have each and every one of you feel good about yourselves? I have no higher desire. I am willing to help each and every one of you if you will ask me, not only during this conference, but if you will ask me wherever and whenever. I will help you. It will require some of you to look at some things you have not looked at before, because they are blocking you feeling good about yourself. But even though it may cause some discomfort and pain to look at this, what you get out of it in the long run is worth so much more. Right now, my beloved, for many of you, the main focus of your life has been to make other people feel good or to make your ego feel good. I am asking you to make a shift where you are willing to say to yourself, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to feel good about myself. What will that take? And then you are open to the answer that we will find some way to give to you. Maybe through a book, a teaching, another person, maybe from within yourself, some insight that suddenly comes to you. This, my beloved, is my highest desire. If you will give me some of your attention during these next days, which I know will be a challenge because other masters will give you other things to think about. But if you will give me some of your attention, you may find that I will be able to assist you tremendously in this short time. You may find that I will be able to use other people to give you a thought and insight that you need. And so, with this, I give you my love. I thank you for coming this long way for many of you. And I thank you, many of you, for coming a very long way in consciousness since you first encountered the teachings of the Ascended Masters in whatever form you encountered them. I thank you for being willing to move on and listen to the living word that is flowing from us today. My heartfelt gratitude and my total acceptance of each and every one of you.